these are the 5 trippiest Rick and Morty episodes of all time. Starting with the episode which has some of the most accurate psychedelic imagery in all of Rick and Morty. In Season 3, Episode 5, titled The Whirly Conspiracy, it's not Rick and Morty that are going on an adventure this time, but rather Rick and Jerry. Rick takes Jerry to a luxury resort in order to help him cope with him and Beth's divorce. This resort offers a strange experience. While at it, you can't die because of it being inside of a barrier that prevents such. Even the kids can harmlessly shoot each other. Yay! While in the washroom at the resort, when drying his hands off, Jerry gets sucked into the hand dryer. Imagine something like this happened to you while in a public washroom. On the other side of the hand dryer, he meets an alien gang led by a guy named Risotto Groupon, who is the assistant general manager of the restaurant they're at. Risotto explains to Jerry that his entire kingdom was taken over using weapons which Rick was responsible for supplying, and Jerry responds with letting Risotto know that Rick basically did the same thing to him as well. Because Risotto and Jerry can relate to each other, Risotto asks Jerry to help him kill Rick, and shows Jerry how there's a specific theme park ride at the resort called the Whirly, where there's a brief moment on the ride that it dips out of the anti-death barrier, and people can die at that section. At first, Jerry doesn't want to help in killing Rick, but after a conversation with Rick at the bar, Jerry starts to reconsider this because of how Rick treats him.
Jerry, I hope you're not suggesting that I had anything to do with your marriage breaking up, because there are some major issues between you and Beth that have been there since you guys met. Hey, to new beginnings.
To the Whirly.
So he decides to get Rick to go on the Whirly roller coaster with him. But after Rick apologizes for things, Jerry regrets bringing Rick on the ride and wants to get off.
I'll cop to it. I put a lot of strain on your marriage. It wasn't fair. I'm sorry.
What?
Although things escalate as the assassins try killing Rick, and the ride goes off the rails and crashes into a nearby forest. Shortly after this, Rick and Jerry decide they need to escape the planet due to the threat of Rick's assassination. So they go to a nearby spaceport which has a spaceship which travels through a wormhole in order to get to places quickly, so they can make it home. When boarding the spaceship, Rick's cybernetic augmentations get detected, so the security agent gives Rick an injection that makes him non-violent for a few hours, so that he can ride the spaceship.
It's a synaptic dampener that blocks violent tendencies and controversial thought. He will now be an ideal passenger. It's cheaper than banning dangerous people from flights. I mean, let everybody buy a ticket, right? Otherwise, the terrorists win.
While on the spaceship, it's revealed that Risotto happens to be on it with them as well, and he holds them at gunpoint, which he's only able to do because of Rick being very dumb from the injection he got. Although because Risotto only wants Rick dead, he tells Jerry that he can leave. Jerry responds to this by attempting to attack him, which is very pathetic. But he does manage to bite Risotto and make him mad, causing Risotto to shoot at Jerry. But as he shoots, the ship goes through the wormhole, causing an incredibly trippy sequence where Jerry enters a psychedelic realm, a realm between life and death. The entire sequence is very accurate to that of a deep psychedelic trip, such as one comparable to a DMT or ayahuasca trip. While in this realm, Jerry encounters psychedelic depictions and entities, such as animal-human hybrids, the all-seeing eye, and more. He even gets to see psychedelic depictions of the cycle of life and time. Jerry even becomes time itself while all this is going on.
Who am I?
Who am I?
I'm time! I'm literally time!
And as well merges form with Rick and Risotto. When coming back from this experience, Jerry, Risotto, and Rick all feel united as one and connected to eternity, especially since they experienced what seems to be thousands of lives. This makes Risotto question whether he should forgive Jerry and Rick now that his current life feels like a tiny fraction of time compared to the experience he just had. So of course Rick takes advantage of Risotto's questioning and shoots him. This scene is one of the trippiest things shown in Rick and Morty, and very well represents some of the possible depths of psychedelic realms in the real world. If this scene isn't trippy enough for you, what about an entire episode which feels like a fever dream? This next episode of Rick and Morty isn't a regular episode within the normal season structure, but is rather a special one. Its title is Bushworld Adventures. Right away, the episode is a completely different animation style than your regular Rick and Morty episode, and is Rick and Morty as Australians. The episode starts with Rick pulling up in a car instead of a spaceship and yelling at Morty to get in the car.
Get in the car, Morty!
Once in the car, Morty is wondering what the heck is even happening, and Rick responds by telling him that they are going on a long drive to go to Bendigo and get Rick's cube. Keep in mind, no context is given as to what this even means. Right after this, Rick reveals to Morty that he replaced his portal gun with a real gun and starts acting insane. To add to the trippiness of this episode, during multiple scenes, both Rick and Morty's animation style is constantly changing and never staying consistent. Out of nowhere, Rick suddenly decides that they need to stop for gas, leading to a funny interaction with Morty and the worker at the gas station.
Do you have a reward card, sir? Oh, nah, just want to buy this stuff, thanks.
Morty, what's taking so long?
To deal with the holdup, Rick shoots the worker and lets Morty know that he's a bureaucrat, which is a reference to the first episode of Rick and Morty when Rick tells Morty to shoot at customs security and ensures Morty that it's fine because they're bureaucrats.
They're not robots, Rick! It's a figure of speech, Morty. They're bureaucrats. I don't respect them.
You just killed him, Rick! He's a bureaucrat, Morty. I don't respect him. Rick, I think you've said that before. It's out of context here.
Nah!
They then get back in the car and Rick starts freaking out because he accidentally filled the car with diesel instead of gas.
I filled it with diesel! Oh,
So now they have to walk to Bendigo, which will take 8 days. While walking, Morty has to pee, so Rick tells him to go behind a tree. And while doing so, a snake bites his pee-pee, and Rick offers an insane solution to solve the issue.
Oh no! I've got to suck your Morty! I've got to suck your little Morty to get the venom out now!
But rather than doing this, Rick lets Morty know that old mate Dougie, the bush wizard, can actually help. So they go and find him. The wizard looks awfully a lot like Morty's dad, but he supposedly isn't.
Dad? No. Awkward turtle.
He then offers a solution to Morty, which is putting a grub on his pee-pee to help with the snake bite, which of course Morty is hesitant to do. And after some convincing, Morty decides to actually do it.
I don't know. What are you, racist? Just put the witchy grub on your
Put the witchy grub on your
Okay, fine.
And it is revealed that it was just a prank all along and that the wizard is in fact Morty's dad.
That's not a bush wizard. That's your dad. Yeah, I knew that. Shut up, Morty. You didn't know.
Rick then asks Jerry if he can help them get to Bendigo, and he tells them he can't, but he can take them to Uncle Barry. Yes, this is as confusing as it sounds. Jerry then opens up a portal and teleports them to some weird cave where they meet Uncle Barry, who apparently doesn't even know who they are. And shortly into their time with Uncle Barry, he lets Rick and Morty know that he can in fact help them get to Bendigo. But his dementia kicks in and he starts freaking out over the fact that Rick and Morty are in his house and begins strangling Rick. So Morty kills Uncle Barry. After this happens, Rick and Morty hear a car horn. So they walk to the garage, and Uncle Barry is there waiting for them as a car, because apparently his soul floated into the car when he died.
It's me, Uncle Barry. My dead soul floated right into the bloody ute. Can you believe it? I'm Ute Uncle Barry.
Unbelievable.
Me husband's a bloody ute.
Up in, boys. We're going to Bendigo.
So they then hop into Uncle Barry and fly through the sky and go to Bendigo. Now that they're at Bendigo, the question is, where's the cube which Rick originally wanted?
Where's the cube? I don't know. You're the one who said it was in Bendigo. What the are you talking about, Morty? I never said that. What do you mean? Why are we here then?
I don't know. I was following you, Morty.
And the episode ends. This entire episode is a fever dream and feels trippy all the way through. On top of that, it probably has one of the best plot lines in all of Rick and Morty. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know in a comment down below. Bushworld Adventures is a very trippy episode, but how about the episode where Morty lives an entire life in the span of minutes, as well as experiences psychedelic realms? We'll get into that in just a minute, but before we do, if you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to like it, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content like it. Now back to the video. In Season 2, Episode 2, titled Mortynight Run, Rick sells a gun to an assassin and uses the profits to take Morty to a space arcade called Blips and Chits. He then puts Morty into a virtual reality game where he wakes up from a nightmare as a young kid named Roy, but proceeds to live his life as normal, going to school, playing football, and so on. He even gets married and has a job at a carpet store. He then survives cancer, and after doing so, continues to work at the carpet store. While climbing to get a carpet which is up high, he falls and dies, which ends the game after 55 years of it going on. Upon the game ending, Morty is left confused, having lived an entire other life and just now coming back to his own life.
Whoa, where am I? 55 years. Not bad, Morty. You kind of wasted your 30s, though, with that whole bird watching phase.
This is some very trippy stuff, but the episode only gets trippier. Because of Morty's belief that it was immoral for Rick to sell a gun to an assassin, he goes and finds the assassin and accidentally kills him. And shortly after this, it is revealed that the assassin had a target, which was a telepathic gas cloud who goes by Fart. And Morty decides to release Fart from imprisonment. Later, Fart thanks Morty for this act, and praises him for putting other forms of life above his own, and then gives him a very trippy psychedelic experience. The experience has some of the trippiest visuals shown in Rick and Morty, and while it's going on, Rick gets annoyed about it, causing it to end so they can continue their mission.
Shut the f up about Moonmen! This isn't a musical number. This is a operation. We gotta be cool and lay low.
Later on, while escaping the police, Fart enters a cop's mind and causes him to envision his girlfriend cheating on him, which causes the cop to purposely crash his vehicle, causing a ton of death and destruction. After this, Rick and Morty are finally able to drop Fart off at his destination, and Fart tells Morty that he plans on cleansing all carbon-based life forms from existence. Morty responds with asking Fart to give him one last experience, where once again it is very trippy and psychedelic. But while this is going on, Morty takes his opportunity and shoots Fart to prevent him from coming back to wipe out carbon-based life. The psychedelic visuals provided by Fart, as well as Morty living an entire life as Roy in the span of minutes, may be trippy. But what about a whole episode dedicated to Morty living an entire other life as Roy? And things get even more complicated. In Season 6, Episode 2, titled Rick, A Mort Well Lived, the episode opens with Rick, Morty, and Summer being stuck in the Blips and Chits arcade while there's an ongoing attack. While this is going on, Morty is stuck inside the Roy video game, where due to a malfunction, it caused Morty's consciousness to become split into all the people inside the video game, making everyone Morty.
We're one person split into a lot of little pieces.
So it is Rick's goal to enter the video game as Roy and try to find a way to let all the versions of Morty know what is actually going on, so the issue can be solved. There's a small group of people in the game which have become aware of the fact that they're all Morty, and are one consciousness.
You kill him, the game ends, and we all die. Get down, lady! I'm not a lady, and you're not a soldier.
But as well, there are still plenty of people convinced that they are all their own individual conscious person.
My name is Kevin, I'm a Marine, I'm 30, I'm a little racist, but my best friend is an immigrant that translated for me in a generic overseas war. That's not true.
Rick's efforts as Roy continue to expand as more and more people, including world leaders, begin to understand that they are all Morty. But even with this expansion of knowledge, others still disagree and start wars over the issue. Eventually though, enough Mortys are able to band together to leave the game on spaceships and go back to the real world, which allows Morty to finally wake up from the video game. This episode is very trippy because of its representation of the idea of one consciousness or God consciousness, which essentially is the idea that in the real world, maybe every individual human, animal, and so on is actually just a branch of one conscious being, whether that be a god or the universe experiencing itself.
You're all my grandson, your name is Morty, you're stuck in a video game, and I'm here to get you out.
It's an artistic portrayal of the idea that maybe each individual in the real world only has the illusion of their own personal consciousness, but in reality is potentially actually connected to a greater form of consciousness without knowing. Many religions and forms of spirituality have these kinds of concepts in them.
Get down, you're all under arrest for being religious the wrong way. It's not a religion. You know what, just shoot me. You think your God makes you bulletproof? There isn't even a God in the real world, you fragmented putz. You know what, hippie? Talking like that is why you're getting shot.
What do you personally think? Are we all one conscious entity, whether that be a form of God, the universe, or something else experiencing itself through multiple beings with the illusion of individual consciousness? Or do all of us individuals experience our own consciousness without any of it being connected to something higher beyond self? Or maybe even your opinion on the topic varies even more from that. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Next up, we have the time Rick ends his own existence and continually transfers his consciousness into clones, just so he can experience things like fighting Bigfoot to the death and accessing the world of Valhalla in the afterlife, in order to create infinite energy. My word, does that sentence I just said ever sound stupid. In Season 7, Episode 9, titled Mort Ragnarick, Morty is Rick's backup plan and will be responsible for pressing the button which makes Rick's consciousness return to a clone of his physical body. Upon entering the cage with Bigfoot, Bigfoot kills Rick in the fight with no effort, and Rick is sent right to the afterlife of Valhalla, which essentially is a realm where people who died in battle fight to the death for eternity. Instead of following through with Rick's backup plan, Morty gets emotional over seeing Bigfoot's reaction to ending Rick and decides to get in the cage with him. Bigfoot then ends Morty's life, and Morty gets sent to Valhalla. For being that dumb, you deserve that, Morty. While living in Valhalla, Rick sets up his own settlement and claims to the people that he is the god Odin.
Easy, guys. This was all a test and you passed. I'm actually Odin.
Odin?
Yep, Thor's father, Spider-Man's uncle, etc.
While this is going on, Bigfoot escapes Rick's facility and ends up being captured by the Pope, who wants to use him as a weapon. Now back to Rick and Morty's story, where Vikings are constantly attacking them while infinitely being revived because they are in Valhalla. All while Rick is creating a relay to produce infinite energy. So Rick ends up bombing the area, which they respawn, so they are stuck in a pit and unable to leave. Then using the infinite energy, he respawns himself and Morty into clones of their own bodies. But while at home, Rick realizes someone is hacking his infinite energy relay, and that it's the Pope doing it. Bigfoot, who now works for the Pope, comes to kill Rick.
What the hell? Are you seriously working for the Pope?
The Pope saw my potential. Prepare to be crushed by Bigfoot.
But Rick convinces him to work against the Pope together, and they go to the Vatican to fight the Pope. But using the infinite energy which he stole from Rick, the Pope kills Rick, Morty, and Bigfoot with ease, sending them back to Valhalla yet again. So they access the energy relay in Valhalla and respawn themselves back into regular life, with Bigfoot now being in a clone of Summer's body.
Why is he in a clone of Summer?
Statistically speaking, she's the third most likely to die.
And yet again, they go to fight the Pope, who instantly kills them once again. So they're sent back to Valhalla and respawn themselves yet another time to fight the Pope. How many more times is this going to happen? My word. Well, it happens 4 more times. So Rick decides to tell the Vikings in Valhalla to pull the plug on the infinite energy shortly after they leave.
Give me 10 Viking minutes after we leave and then pull the plug on that windmill we made over there.
This allows them to finally win the fight against the Pope and capture him in a Pokeball. Or I guess you could call it a Popey Ball.
I'm just gonna say it so nobody else has to say it. Popey ball. There.
Being stuck in a death loop is definitely rather trippy, but out of every episode in this video, which do you think was the trippiest? Let me know in a comment down below. As well, if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy one of my videos where I talk about the weirdest episodes of Rick and Morty, or my video talking about the scariest episodes. The first episode I talk about in the scary video is definitely also a fairly trippy episode. Both of those videos are on screen right now. As well, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. Have a good one.